A very good evening. A warm welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, and a warm welcome to a rather exciting afternoon, which you'd probably think would link into what today's show is about when I tell you where I am and why I am here. But it doesn't, because the event I am at is actually still going on. And I slipped away rather quietly to come and join you all and join three very cool members of the winemaking community to discuss something completely different. So where am I? I'm in about 7 hectares of bedroom. This is the Manor House at Brookdale in Paarl, which is enjoying a wonderful revival. 2015, Tim, the current owner, bought the place. It was run down. It was ramshackle. It was really on the back foot. And in 7 years, it has become something quite remarkable. A beautiful manor house that looks like it's been here for centuries, but is only a few years old. Wine under the stewardship of Chiara Scott, who is the young winemaker who's overseeing this beautiful part of the world. Isn't it gorgeous? You can see there, that's a sweeping shot from a little earlier on this afternoon. And Chiara is making a couple of wines. That's the pool house there, where there are currently all sorts of wine people, from Duncan Savage to Fiona McDonald to Christian Eads to Angela Lloyd to Chepang Molisana to many more, who are currently testing something that I'll talk to you about at a moment in the news. But it's a brand new white wine that has touched down, some new vintages from an estate that's giving a bit of luster, a bit of sparkle back to the Paarl area, that's got plenty of tradition, but I think it's probably fair to say has just slipped behind places like Stellenbosch over the last decade or so, and maybe needs a bit of a pick-me-up. And I think that Brookdale could well be the place to do it. So welcome here. Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick and Pay. And welcome, I think, to International Malbec Day, because one of the things with these wine days, and there's about one of them a week, is that they tend to have certain different interpretations depending on where in the world you find yourself. And whether it's today, whether it's this weekend, as I think they're calling it in Argentina, if it's not International Malbec Day, we'll call it International Malbec Week, which gave me an opportunity to talk Malbec with 3 people who make it in South Africa and find out why we don't see that much of it here, what the challenges are in making it, and how the Malbecs from, respectively, KWV, the Mentors, Neethlingshof, and Mischa are faring in the South African market. So that is to come with 3 great winemakers. Before we do that, though, let's have a quick look at what's been happening in the world of wine. Escape to something wonderful. Well, you can indeed. 28th and 29th of April. This is up in Johannesburg. It is the secret dining experiences that my good mate Darren is putting together. I think this one is off in Muldersdrift, where you get to go off. And what that is, they put together these secret evenings of fine dining in unusual spaces, from disused warehouses to forests to wineries to all sorts of places. Secret Eats has got its newest one in Johannesburg coming up at the end of April. Give it a quick Google and you'll find out exactly how to get there. I don't think there are many seats left, but for a really unique eating experience, they bring together not just fine dining, but some top chefs, some great wine, and in this case, a forest in Muldersdrift. I think it's going to be very cool. 28th, 29th April, limited seats. Go and do a little bit of homework, find out where it is, and I think that's one well worth getting out to have a look at. Well then, how's about this? How cool. Look at that beaming smile of pride. That, of course, is me. That's on Friday afternoon, the very first course of the brand new Cup Classique Academy, put together by Bubbles Ferreira, gleaming there from behind his very postmodern glasses, the godfather of Cup Classique, the man from Graham Beck, who's still head of the Cup Classique Association. And together with Heidi Dermany, who runs the Cape Wine Academy, they've put together a 3-tiered course in Cup Classique. The first one's fairly straightforward and entry level, just getting your head around the basics of South African bubbles, but it then moves up to a second and third course, which are decidedly tougher, decidedly more demanding. We'll ask a lot more questions, but we'll give you an internationally recognized qualification in Cup Classique, which goes well beyond just pour a glass for a 21st or a wedding celebration, or as Bubbles said with a smile, a divorce. learn about it in the context of food, in the context of bubbles from around the rest of the world. How does it differ? How is it similar? If you'd like to do the first course, it is really, really good value. It's 795 Rand. There are a selection of them kicking off the 23rd of April. There's one at the Southern Sun Hyde Park up in Johannesburg. I'll be doing one in Stellenbosch as well. And then all the way through to July, there's a series, Johannesburg, Stellenbosch, Cape Town, a couple in Franschhoek. Your chance to go and find out a bit more about Cup Classique. And who knows, once you've done the first star course, there are the second and third courses to do as well. I will be doing them. And if you've got an interest in wine, if you've got an interest in bubbles in particular, then I think this is one to definitely have a look at. And then finally, this is what I've been doing downstairs. Have a look at that. 2021 and then 16. You're probably thinking, well, hang on, which vintage is it? 2021 or 2016? Well, it is not. It is 16 varietals. To make that up, I have had a few glasses of wine, not that many. 16 varietals put together into a wine that is very, very interesting. I was sitting next to Christian Eads just moments ago. He was trying to get his head around exactly how he would explain this to his legion of readers on Wine Magazine. Francois from the Singita Group faced with the same challenge. The field blend, very simply, all sorts of grapes, all planted together, let to roam wild and mixed together. You pull them up and you make them and you see what happens. And in this case, you get a very distinctive wine that's impossible to place, but is already really alluring. And I think is going to have a very, very, very interesting future. There are 20 red blends to come as well. Kiara's having a lot of fun at Brookdale with assistance from Duncan Savage, her previous mentor. This is now being released, but good luck getting hold of any. There are only 1,200 bottles made. It is in short supply, and that supply is only going to get shorter once today's media put pen to paper and the rest of the world knows quite how interesting, quite how fun, quite how adventurous the latest release from Brookdale is. So there we go. That is playing out downstairs as I speak. Right now, though, instead of talking about a 16 varietal white blend, I'd like to talk a bit about Malbec because I've got a fond history with a grape I spent a lot of time with in Mendoza in Argentina about 12, 13 years ago now, taking time with Wines of Argentina, visiting some top winemakers and getting to understand Argentinian wine in general, but Malbec in particular, and what makes it so brilliant in Argentinian conditions, but a challenge, or so it would seem, to other parts of the world. To tell the story of Malbec in International Malbec Week, Izele van Blerk joins us from The Mentors. You also have Johan Calitz from Mischa and DeWet Viljoen from Neethlingshof. Guys, a warm welcome. Lovely to have you all on. Happy Malbec Week, I think we're going with, and lovely to have you all with me to celebrate it. A grape that you've all done a bit of work with, but Izele, not a grape we see a huge amount of in South Africa. Set the scene for Malbec in South Africa, what the challenges are, and why we maybe don't see as much as we'd possibly like to.
Hi, Dan. Thank you for having me and all of the team on the show tonight. There's actually a lot of plantings in South Africa. More than 580 hectares is planted in South Africa. Paul and Stellenbosch, like you can see, the winemakers you invited, are the leading regions on Malbec plantings. So Malbec for me it's the first time we've released a Malbec under the Mentors range, and it's in our limited edition. But it's always been, for the past 12 years I've been at KWV, it's been one of my favorite varietals. And the one thing I've learned now is that Malbec you can't sort. Even though it's a really thick-skinned varietal, on the sorting belt, it just burst open and it's this pitch black juice coming out of the skins and of the berry. Lower acidities when it arrives in the winery, but so reactant with adding tartaric acid that you get nice high acidities with very low pHs. Malbec for me it's such a diverse varietal, but dark inky color, nice skin, and it's got these big bold tannins. It's one of my favorite varietals. But like I said, I've been working with Malbec for 12 years, and it's so diverse in different regions. So the one that we put in the bottle is a total different wine. It's almost spearmint that you get in the wine, rather than that cassis, plums, dark cherries. So this is a bit of a swing with a different style of Malbec. But that's actually what we at the Metal Cellar stand for, and be pushing the boundaries and making some unique, different wines and challenging people to drink different wines.
DeWet as well, speaking there, a very distinctive style of Malbec. If I think to my time in Mendoza, there were two broad schools of approach. There was what the locals referred to as the fruit bombs, the big, overwhelming, no subtlety whatsoever wine. They're lovely to drink, but after about 2 or 3 years, you probably didn't want it much longer. And then the more classic style, the more elegant style that was built to last a lot longer. But where do we sit in terms of a South African style, if there is one, and what defines how we're able to make South African Malbec?
Yeah, Dan, Malbec is very close to my heart, and as Izele has mentioned, it's a wonderful grape to work with. It has been following me ever since I've started my winemaking career here at Neethlingshof. Unknowingly, I went on honeymoon to France, and we stayed one night in a little town called Cahors, which is the home of Malbec in France. So we got to taste a whole lot of Malbecs from that region, and that style of Malbec is very different to the style that we produce here at Neethlingshof. Those Malbecs, you really need a lot of time to mature, and they're not very accessible at a young age. Probably need about 5 to 10 years for them to develop before you can enjoy them. Whereas the South American, the Argentinian style of Malbec is much more friendly and accessible and expressive, and goes nice with food and red meat and all of that. And I think the style that I like to go for here at Neethlingshof is that of more the South American Argentinian style of Malbec. Still serious, still good concentration, but more expressive, more floral, spice, herb, rosemary sort of style. And then if you mature them in French and a little bit of American oak, you get that chocolatey character that comes out of the wine and shows during the wine. And I think that's part of the reason why people enjoy this wine so much. It's really an enjoyable wine. It's something different, but it really works so well with the South African let's call it cuisine of braaiing. And what better wine to enjoy on a Monday evening, just to break the week and forget about what lies ahead, and have a nice fire and open a good bottle of Malbec and enjoy that with whatever you're cooking on the fire. So to me, that's I think that's more the style of the South African Malbecs. It can be serious, but we certainly here at Neethlingshof, we go for the more accessible style of Malbec.
What about producing that sort of style, DeWet? Is it a relatively friendly, engaging, placid grape to work with, or does it take a bit of rolling up the sleeves and breaking out a sweat to get it done the way you want to?
Yeah, it's as Izele mentioned, it's a difficult one to work with, and you need to understand it. I was very fortunate that when I joined Neethlingshof in 2003, they planted that vineyard just before I joined. I joined in June, and they planted the vineyard in April, in May of that year, and that was really. We were fortunate in those years that we had the likes and the expertise of Professor Eben Archer, who traveled the world, and he identified the site where we planted it, and he had a lot of recommendations in terms how to manage the vineyard. The one thing that you don't want to do with Malbec is try and fence it in. For the first number of years, you need to let it grow because it's quite vigorous, and it needs to get rid of some of that vigor. So first couple of harvests that we did, we got quite a good yield. So if you're after high yield wine or vineyards, then it can work for you. But after a couple of years, it sort of gets into balance, and then it becomes really nice to work with. It has quite big berries. So you need to be wary of that. And as Izele's mentioned, sorting doesn't work because it's a really juicy affair. But if you do all the basics right in the vineyard, no reason why you should be able to manage this grape well and make some high-end quality wines with it. It's a lovely grape to work with. It's fantastic.
Speaking of high-end quality wines, I was speaking to Bear Robertson, a good friend of mine, heads up the marketing side of the Rupert wine family. We were talking about Malbec last week, and he said, Dan, if you're going to be drinking Malbec, you must give the guys from Mischa a call. I had one a few days ago. It was lovely. So we gave the guys from Mischa a call, and Johan has jumped on. Johan, lovely to have you on the show, talking about Malbec. You've heard Izele and you've heard DeWet. What's your experience as a winemaker with Malbec in South Africa?
Hi, Dan. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Yes, so Malbec also for me, before I started at Mischa, not a varietal that I had a lot of experience with. And starting out here in my career, it's just been an awesome experience to work with this amazing grape. Like they said, it's a different cultivar to work with, but an amazing experience. And the wines that we produce out of this fruit is just amazing. And with that, I don't think I'm alone in this, where I think Malbec is growing in South Africa. People are starting to find out about it, and they are realizing that there's not only one or two varietals out there, and they can actually experience something different. Out of a nursery point of view, like I said, in South Africa, people are just starting to realize what Malbec is, and the plantings are actually growing a lot. We've been seeing that in the sales of our nursery vines across the country, and I think Malbec is a growing cultivar, very similar in the vineyard to Merlot. So I think people are very excited to experience it, and it's just been a privilege to work with this sort of grape and produce quality wines from it. I think there's a lot of farms that's going to be planting it throughout the country and start producing very competitive Malbecs in the country, and I look forward to that a lot.
Johan, there are some grapes where everything is made in the vineyard, and we know that, but there's some grapes where the winemaker can have a bit more of an influence on the kind of style that she or he subscribes to. With Malbec, how much is dictated to you as the winemaker, and how much can you kind of make happen yourself?
Well, like you said, everything depends on the quality of the fruit. We are very lucky to have a very small vineyard, so we can put a lot of love and attention into the vineyard and produce high quality fruit. And Malbec being so pliable, like they said, being a juicy affair and thick skins and big berries, it's hard to sort. It is very important that you get quality fruit from the vineyard, but with some magic in the cellar, you can always make a good wine. Yeah.
You got some supporters there. The great Grant Sauls. I thoroughly enjoy Mischa's wines. Grant, glad to hear that. I don't think you're alone there. And a few other people who had some comments from us earlier on. Lushaba referring to the Cup Classique courses. I don't see any courses in KwaZulu-Natal. Are we that bad? I will speak to Bubbles straight after the show and demand that he put a course up for you in KwaZulu-Natal. Marika Geracha, Izele, give me a sip. I'm sure she can be persuaded to help you out there. And then Nontleba following up. Always great to hear, Izele. Always something a little different. Never run of the mill. Well, let's go back to Izele. We have some wonderful conversations, Izele, about the mentors and about the different wine that you make. And you often give life to grapes that are often seen in the background, grapes that generally fit into a blend in a small supporting role. And just as we've seen Cabernet Franc, I think, really comes to the fore over the last few years and step out of its Bordeaux blend shadows. So Malbec often sits quietly there or thereabouts and doesn't often get a front row billing. That has changed. You're one of the people who has done that. What is it for you that says to Malbec, yes, it works nicely within a blend, but it really does deserve its own time in the sun?
So, yeah, with all the Bordeaux varietals and all the other varietals like Petit Shiraz and Sangiovese, Nebbiolos, Carmenères, there's so many different varietals that we haven't even explored in South Africa. And I think that for me is one of the main things that I actually want to do in my career, is pushing the boundaries to get some different varietals and educate people on drinking different wines, not just the normal Sauvignon Blanc. Not that I say you shouldn't drink Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Cabernet. Please don't shoot me. But I think there's so many other varietals like Petit Verdot. Like Petit Verdot is one of our best sellers, and Cabernet Franc in the Mentors range. And for me, Malbec, when I've worked with it in the past, it all depends on the site that you work with. I get 3 different blocks in the Mentor cellar. The one is from Helderberg, the smallest little berries. And when you walk in the vineyards and you taste the berries, you just get that structure. When I do a blind tasting and I taste that wine on the table, I immediately know that is block 6. And I know I'm going to get that concentration and that pitch black color and tannin structure. Then just across the road from that specific farm, you get the bigger berries. That's more your floral component. And what I do with the one block, with the tannin structure, I use it in Peril style, where I use the more floral. I bring a bit of lift on our Orchestra blend, our Bordeaux style blend. And then we've got a pole portion that we did a limited edition just because it's so different, so unique. I didn't just want to put a Malbec in the bottle. I wanted to bring something to the table that's different and unique. But Malbec brings 5% of Malbec to any blend, brings 10 to 15 times better concentration, better color, better structure. And it's just that makeup that you put on. I use Malbec to put makeup on all the wines. So I've always got my base to a wine, and then I use Malbec to, if I need fruit, I'll add Malbec. If I need tannins, I'll add Malbec. If I need a bit of color, I'll add Malbec. So Malbec is my paintbrush.
It's a very, very versatile grape by the sounds of things. And yet it's also one that on its own terms, as we're seeing, is finding its feet. You don't have to worry quite so much, Izele, about the broader consumer, because you've got your crazy laboratory at KWV, and you've got carte blanche to come up with all this wonderful stuff that you do in bespoke volumes. For the broader consumer, do you think South Africans have an understanding of Malbec, or appreciating it, or looking for Malbec as a single variety? This is a wine I know is going to appeal to me, so I want to go out and find it.
I think it's our responsibility as wine industry to educate the people on Malbec. For me, it's one of those wines that I will open every single night. Like the vet said, it's so approachable. If you make it in the right style, it can be this really approachable, fruit-driven style, but also a very serious wine. And if you think about South Africans and Argentinians, they like meat, barbecues. And this wine just goes perfectly with any meat. So it needs to become a household wine in South Africa, but we need to educate the people on the specific varietal, on different regions where you can buy this wine. And we need to get the people excited about this wine. A lot of the people don't know the varietal. They just see it at the back of a bottle going into a blend and only at small portions. But if you can tell them, please taste it. And a perfect example is the Neethlingshof and the Mischa. Go out and buy it and taste it, and please let us know what you think about it. And we can talk about how we can produce more Malbecs. Stylistically, we just need to capture the consumer in the different styles of Malbec that you can get, because you can drink it in after 12 months in the bottle, or you can keep it for 10 to 15 years, all depending on what's the occasion. So I think there's a bright future for Malbec in South Africa, but also our responsibility as the wine industry to educate the consumer on the different wines and the different styles. And if people taste Malbec for the first time, they would immediately go back to Malbec again.
The Malbec fan club is growing. The Izele van Blerk fan club is already quite substantial, and a member of that fan club has just dropped in. Greg Sherwood, greetings from the Isle of Wight, Dan, says Greg. A very good friend of Dan Really Likes Wine, and follows up with loving the Mentors special release Malbec, which you saw in picture there. One of Izele's recent triumphs, of which she has many. Johan, Izele was talking there about people who maybe don't know Malbec. If somebody says to you as the winemaker, I've never had Malbec, should I go out and buy some, and why? How are you introducing somebody to Malbec in terms of a frame of reference of other wine and a frame of reference of what to eat with it, what to engage with it to get the best out of a Malbec?
Well, Dan, if somebody asked me if they should buy a Malbec, I would say without a doubt, definitely go. Doesn't matter which one, just give it a try, because it's an awesome wine. Doesn't matter which style you find it in, because it's such a versatile variety. You get the more serious ones, you get the more approachable ones. And like Izele said, we really need to educate the people as much as possible to experience and to explore Malbecs, because it is such a versatile grape. You don't just get one style and one sort of wine from it. I would definitely compare it to a more serious Batavia's sort of Merlot, whereas you can get a very fruity, fruit-driven, approachable Merlot, or you can get a very serious Merlot that needs to be aged before you can drink it. And Malbec is the same way. You can get a lighter styled, fruitier, approachable Merlots, or you can get a very heavy tannic Merlot Malbec that needs a little bit of bottle aging before you can enjoy it to its utmost. But if anybody asks me, should they try out a Malbec, it's a no-brainer. You have to give it a go. It's an awesome wine. And I think South Africans especially will find a big liking in it once they get to know it a bit more.
And in terms of the style that you make, I mentioned earlier, Bear Robertson from Rupert Wines giving your Mischa Malbec some great kudos, said he thoroughly enjoyed it. The style that you make, would it sit more into the fruit bomb, the kind that the Argentinians make quite a lot of, that is made now, drink tomorrow? Or is it something to set aside a bit? Does that kind of Malbec for you have the potential to be put in the back of the cellar, be patient, bring it out in 5 or 6 years' time and be rewarded for the wait?
Well, Dan, with all of our Mischa wines, we kind of design the wines to be accessible as soon as you buy it, but also being able to age at least 5 to 6 years. And the Malbec is no exception. It's a very intense fruit bomb, I would say, but with also a lot of good tannin and wood structure that will make it age at least 5 years. But also with that, it's a very concentrated, silky, thick, sort of oxblood type of wine. So it's nice and dark, nice and heavy, but it is silky smooth and it goes down easily. So I would easily drink this today, and I would drink it in 5 years' time as well. Yeah.
It does speak to a conundrum that winemakers have at the moment, because it's a fairly well-known statistic. 4 out of 5 bottles of wine that are sold today will be drunk within 24 hours. And so you have to understand, well, this is the nature of the business we're in. We need wine that can be drunk if people want to drink it, and they must still enjoy it. And yet we'd love as winemakers for the full expression of our wine to be given time to take hold. For you at Neethlingshof, how difficult is it generally, and then with specifically the Malbec, the challenge of getting those 2 requests of consumers right?
Yeah, that's a very valid point you're making, Dan. So we had when we started with Malbec, our first vintage of Malbec. Well, incidentally, if you allow me, I'll just quickly share this story with you. So the first Malbec grapes that I received was in 2006. Remember, we planted the vineyard in 2003, and incidentally, the vines came from Mischa. So Andy is a good friend of mine, and his father is also a good friend of mine. His late father was, and we got the vines from Mischa. But the first wine that we made was made in 2006. Always a special day to me, because the first grapes arrived the same day as my firstborn arrived. My son was born on the 8th of March, and that was also the same day that we receive our very first Malbec grapes. So the first vintage we released was only in 2008, and we decided, as I mentioned, to go more for the accessible Argentinian style of Malbec. Still very expressive, still a lot of fruit, still structure. But over the years, it's been very successful, and we were forced to slightly adjust the style and the release date of our wine. to fit into what the consumer wanted. So it would be possible to create a more serious style of Malbec, but it's not the style that is moving off the shelves here at Neethlingshof. So the vintage that we currently on is the 2020 vintage. So it's fairly young, and we've already bottled the 21 vintage. So that's still resting in the bottles. Which you might think is way too young, but it's that's exactly what we are trying to do. So it's a wine when you buy it, and it's good value for money. It's selling for 115 Rand a bottle. When you buy it, it's ready to be enjoyed. Still well structured enough to be enjoyed with food and on its own. But the wine is made in a style to be enjoyed once you buy the wine. Maybe in the future, I might do a more serious style of Malbec. Time will tell. One that you can sell it for a little bit longer, but certainly this is working for us, and we're not going to change it soon.
And then what about the pairing? There's a fairly generic, we have a big red wine, we'll have a nice big piece of steak. And anybody who's been to Argentina knows that, with apologies to South Africans, the Argentinians like steak even more than we do. And their obsession with it is manifest in a number of not just restaurants, but high-end, high-quality restaurants with a dizzying array of cuts that we've never heard of. And I think back to an experience at the Rucamalen bodega just outside of Mendoza, where I had a 5-course steak tasting menu on the first floor of the estate, looking out over vines up to snow-capped Andes. It was a staggeringly magical experience that I will never, ever forget. But they were quite clear. This goes with big chunks of red meat. Is Malbec fairly one-dimensional in that respect, DeWet, or can you play around a bit more with it?
No, it's certainly it's just the opposite. It's not one-dimensional. Yes, we as South Africans and the Argentinians love steak, and it does work. I think it's more the way that the food is prepared that works with Malbec, because of its natural bit of smokiness and herb flavors that you get. So it works really well. But there's so much more to Malbec than just steak. If you like a coq au vin, it's probably one of the best wines to do a coq au vin with. My wife's favorite, and my wife also produces her own Malbec, which is a story for another day. But my wife's favorite for Malbec is octopus, and we're looking very much forward to go to we have a little house down at Arniston, and we like to cook seafood, and she has a wonderful recipe with octopus that she slowly cooks over a long period of time, and serves that over lentils and rice, and that with Malbec is just fantastic. It's out of this world. If you like Malbec as a dessert, if you can get hold of chocolate truffles, and you can get some, you really get some good chocolate truffles, and get them to add a little bit of chili or aniseed. It's so versatile. It just works with many different things. But there's so much more to Malbec than just steak. As a vegetarian, I know it's especially meat-free Mondays, which is a difficult concept for me to understand. But on a Monday, if you like to go the vegetarian route, mushrooms are so versatile, and you can cook a mushroom on the braai, and you can add some really nice spice and parmesan, and that in itself is very nice and really good with Malbec. It's a versatile variety, but I've always maintained, and my good friend Dame Bailey always said, you don't need food as an excuse to enjoy wine, and I think it's certainly the case with Malbec as well.
So a great endorsement there of the versatility, the magic of Malbec. I see a number of people are commenting from different parts of the world. Philip Dufton, who is my mother's astrologer, he's staying with us at the moment, found the keys to your wine cellar, less Malbec, when you get back. I have no doubt. Sagittarius is in the 9th house of Saturn at the moment, which I think means your Malbec stocks are in danger. Ansel Rabi, Izele van Blerk is without doubt the best in the business. She's got a lot of friends and fans, does Izele, and I understand why. And Marika Herrera, Izele is amazing. Love the Mentors range. Let's keep on that theme of food then, Izele, because I know as much as wine is top of the list, pairing it with great food is something you're pretty adept at doing as well. Set aside the regulation steak. What else on top of the suggestions there from DeWet does Malbec have the potential to light up when it comes to Malbec and food?
Dan, like DeWet said, Malbec is so versatile, all depending on the style of Malbec that you have and that you're enjoying. Roast pork, we like steak at home. I will eat steak every single day, but any meat, but also then with Gouda cheddar, and you can have stuffed peppers. There's so many different food types and dishes that you actually can enjoy Malbec with. All depending on the style, like I said. If you take the Helderberg style that I also produce, that I use in blends, it's more structured, so it's got a lot of tannin, so you'll need a bit of matured meat for that. But then if you look at it, the limited Malbec, it's got that almost fennel spearmint, so you can actually enjoy this wine with any food. Like I said, roast pork, chicken even. So Malbec for me is so versatile, and it's got the nice thing about Malbec, it's actually got a bit of sweetness on the palate that you will think there's sugar in it, but it's not. It's bone dry, but it's got this lovely sweetness and concentration on the palate. It's so inviting. When you pick up this glass, when I opened the bottle now, I was running around in the building here in the office and just telling everyone, just smell this wine, just smell this wine. And everyone was so surprised with just opening up all these flavors. And for me, Malbec is one of the most inviting varietals and wines that you can get. So pinning down one dish with Malbec, I would spoil Malbec if I would choose only one dish.
I can already see a queue of requests coming in. Please, can we go and have dinner at Izele's house? I think we might have to do a giveaway there, a dinner with Izele and the Mentors range at KWV. Now, Beloshaba, absolutely love the food pairings. It is one of the utter joys of food and wine, is that it is so much fun to explore and be adventurous, and you won't always get it 100% right, but as you can see there from both DeWet and from Izele, gee, you can have a huge amount of fun with food and wine, and with Malbec in particular. Let's wrap up that particular theme with Johan. If I drop round for dinner, and I'm in Paarl at the moment, so Wellington's not too far away, Johan, what for you, other than the standard big ribeye with plenty of juice and fat and marbling, what else might work for you for a night out with Malbec and dinner?
Well, Dan, you throw me in the deep end here, because Izele and DeWet basically said everything about food and Malbec. But something they didn't mention was lamb. What you can do is cook a lamb stew, a lamb pot with a lot of veggies and spice and herbs in, and just add a little Malbec and just increase the richness of the dish, and then also have a Malbec with that lamb stew, and that's also a massively enjoyable dish that you can do with Malbec. I mean, like I said, they almost mentioned all the food you can do, but you can Malbec. I mean, you can do almost anything with it. You can even cook with it if you want to lose a little bit of Malbec to the food instead of enjoying it yourself. But yeah, for me, if you came over, I'd invite you right now for a lamb stew with some Malbec.
Yet another person we all want to go and have dinner with, Johan and the Mischa range. And again, it's something you get with our winemakers, whether it's wine or food. It's generally such a passionate and excited lot. I think, guys, you've sold us all on Malbec. I do have one final Malbec related question, but just quickly, and I'll go back to you there, Johan. I know, I think I'm hoping everybody is just about finished. This is the harvest that never ever ends. How's the harvest looking at Mischa for 2022, and what can we expect from this particular vintage from you guys?
Well, Dan, I think, and anybody could agree or disagree with me, but it was a very late harvest. We had quite a cool early summer in November and December. It was quite cool and rainy. And a lot of the vineyards struggled a lot with sugar loading. So we had a little bit of delayed ripeness. We had a lot of disease pressure, but luckily we managed to work around that and sort it out. And in the end, we had a quite short, compressed, very intense harvest. Everything seemed to delay, and ripen at the same time. And it was like a red wine tidal wave coming through the cellar. But luckily, we are mostly finished. We've got a couple of tanks left to press, and hopefully before Easter, we can be finished with pressing the wines and have a little bit of a break. But in general, the quality is very high. The grapes are looking great. It was smelling awesome throughout fermentation. I'm sure Izele and DeWet will also agree that we had a bit of acidity problems, IPHs, low acids, but nothing we can't figure out and work around. But all in all, very high quality, very good harvest for us. I'm sure it went well for everybody else as well.
The story of the vintage at Mischa, more winemaker. They do some work occasionally, but gee, if they had to do some work in 2022. DeWet from Neethlingshof, how is the vintage looking? You feeling pretty happy with the way things are?
Can you hear me? Yeah, there we go. I'm very confident and very positive about the vintage. It's been a late one, but each year brings its own challenges. We are. I'm used to this because we produce a noble late harvest, and we'll probably only start harvesting the vineyards after Easter. So even though we sort of finished, we're not really finished. So I've learned to sort of mentally adapt my mind. But it's been a good vintage. Late, yes, but all in all, I think it's very promising. The red, I think the reds should be very interesting and shows a lot of potential. The white wines, of course, too. But the scale for me for this year is leaning towards the red wines. And at this stage, the Pinotage wines are showing a lot of promise. In terms of the white wines, we are bottling the 2022 Sauvignon Blanc tomorrow. So that's something that you can watch out soon in the near future. So yeah, it's an exciting time, and it's as a winemaker, it's actually a very rewarding time because you put in a lot of work and effort during the harvest, and you didn't see the family, and you felt sorry for yourself, and you probably drank too much wine and beer during harvest. But now it's very relaxing and rewarding, and you can sort of see how the wines develop. So I'm very positive, looking forward, and we take it day by day, step by step, and just enjoy life and enjoy wine.
Difficult to believe that it's a hard-working process being a winemaker when we see after this long and tough and demanding and arduous harvest, these big smiles and looking as happy and cheerful and youthful as you do. But I think that speaks to the reward that our winemakers get out, because gee, they do work some long hours. But it's certainly sounding upbeat and positive. One or two small challenges notwithstanding. Izele, your harvest is a little different to the others, and that you stretch a little further beyond I think the other two do in terms of the reach of where you get your grapes for the Mentals range. Have you finished in all of your different little corners of South Africa? How are things looking? And is there anything in particular that you can reveal to us that is going to be part of the next range of the Mentals based on this vintage?
I must just say, whoop, whoop. I'm so glad I don't make Noble Late anymore. Sorry, DeWet. but yeah, our team finished last Tuesday. The biggest sellers finished on Friday, so we got about 12,600 tons in total in at KWV this year. I did about 500 tons in the mental cellar. I'm with DeWet on this one. I think the rates are looking very promising. Pinotage especially is looking really good. But my secret varietal for this year is the Cabernets. For me is looking exceptional. It's, you know, when you taste through the winery and then suddenly the wine just tell you, hey, I'm here and I'm looking really good this year. So taste me again. I got that feeling with Cabernet. I know I don't talk to the wines and I don't sing to the tanks, even though I've got a lot of music in the winery. But I still believe that you actually got a connection with what's happening in the tanks. And if you work with certain blocks for over 10 years, you actually get to build up a memory bank of how the wine tasted during fermentation in the past 10 years. And when a wine suddenly just shows a lot of potential, you can actually taste it immediately. And the nice thing this year for me is, yes, I know a lot of people struggled with, I just saw the comment of DeWet, I'm going to answer now. I just saw that a lot of people think that we struggled with sugar loading. So the varietals didn't get to optimum ripeness, or that what we thought were optimum ripeness. But this year, especially this year, I was in the vineyard so many times, just tasting, and making crucial decisions with our winemaking team, and just picking even Cabernets at 24 bulling because it was ripe. And it got color and Pinotage for me as well. I used to pick Pinotage at 26, 27 bulling, but now this year I could pick at 24 and a half, 25, and it was ripe. So it was a really interesting year. It was like always very challenging, but when you get your shoes dirty and go into the vineyards and work in the cellar and tasting the wines the whole time, it was actually a very, very nice harvest, even though it was a bit longer. But for DeWet, Juicy Wiggle is my harvest song. When it starts playing, everyone starts dancing in the cellar. So I'm not going to do the dance now. If Roland's got the song there, we can do it. But for me, overall, the quality of the wines looking good. pH is a bit higher than usual, but I think we've managed it during fermentation. And let's hold thumbs and let's see how it looks after malolactic fermentation. And now it's going to bed for another 18 months. So hopefully in 18 months' time, we will sit here and taste the wines, and then we can have a better conversation on the quality.
All right, I think you know what to do now. Get a hold of a copy of Juicy Wiggles on Spotify and get some of the new Mentors Cabernet Sauvignon, and you've got the rest of 2022 sorted out. Johan, I'm not sure if you can follow up with a song, but give us one if you will in a moment. Just very quickly though, Izele, before we wrap up with you, give me one other Malbec that you think people in South Africa should have a crack at, just as they broaden their Malbec education, broaden their Malbec experience, find one that they might not have come across, but you definitely go and have a look out for.
Neethlingshof and Mischa, and then also Benguela Cove. They've got an exceptional Malbec. And also Mitres Edge, also got a really good Malbec, also a bit different in style. But go to Malbec, I would go obviously to Neethlingshof or Mischa. But yeah, hopefully you'll buy ours as well. But it's only 1,000 bottles, so hopefully you can get your hands on one.
I hope you are taking notes because you're getting advice from the experts. Johan, wrapping up, the choice of harvest song, which is by far the most important question you'll get this evening, and then another Malbec from around South Africa that you feel is worth a look at.
Harvest song is usually one that I play for a little bit of inspiration for the people. It's from the Bee Gees. It's an oldie, but staying alive. It's just to keep them going. And yes, I have to agree with Izele. Benguela Cove is definitely one of my favorites. Yes, yeah, that's definitely a winner, guys. Go check it out. I will definitely give Neethlingshof a try as well. I haven't given it a try before. Izele's Mentors Malbec is also definitely a winner. I've had that one. That's awesome wine. Congrats on that one, Izele. But I have to agree, Benguela Cove is a winner, and just for interest's sake, I'm definitely buying a Neethlingshof one later in the week and giving it a shot.
Now, I think that Benguela Cove got 4.5 stars from Plata last year. We'll have to arrange for DeWet to send you a bottle of his Malbec, and you clearly already know Izele's quite well. I'm a little bit surprised because, Johan, in all fairness and with absolutely no disrespect meant at all, you do look about 17. So I thought the Bee Gees might be a little bit before your time, maybe a bit more One Direction, but Staying Alive would certainly get the cellar going if I was in harvest time. So a great collection of both wine and music. DeWet, you pushed out this question as to what the harvest song would be. So what's rocking the cellar down at Neethlingshof, and then what's one other Malbec we should be looking out for?
Yeah, Dan, I'm an 80s fan, so anything from the 80s, but there's only one boss, so any song from the boss, and my particular favorite is Tougher Than the Rest, so that would be my go-to song. But then as a twist, I'm also a bit of a heavy metal, Twisted Sister, We're Not Gonna Take It, so that's another favorite. In terms of other Malbecs, it's good maybe to go and check out. There's an annual Malbec challenge, and any of the wines that was elected, I think there were 10 finalist wines, so they're all great. But I need to happy wife, happy life. So definitely try out my wife's wine, which is the Spyker Malbec, which is honoring the late Dame P. Bailey. So that's another one that I would recommend trying. And then, of course, the recommendations of the other hosts. I know their wines and they're great. Another great wine from the Wellington area is from Doolhof, which is also a really good Malbec that I enjoy.
That Malbec challenge sounds like one to keep an eye on. You mentioned, I'm a little thrown there, you mentioned that Twisted Sister song there, DeWet. If I come home and my wife and her sister, and heaven help me, my mother as well, are playing Twisted Sister, then I know my cellar's had some damage done to it and the lock has been broken into yet again. What I've loved about this is not just the standard hanging out with great winemakers, because you always give such great value and you tell such wonderful stories and speak so passionately about wine, but that we've jumped into a grape that doesn't get quite as much limelight as some of the others, and we've been able to really talk about and unpack some of the joys of Malbec, some of the examples thereof, and why it means so much to all three of you. And I can see it's not just well, let's try and sell a couple of cases of Malbec and speak nicely about it. There's clearly a love of Malbec as a grape, as an expression, and I'm really grateful that in International Malbec Week, day, fortnight, that we've been able to do exactly that with it. I've got some new songs to add to my current playlist. I've got some more wine to go out and have a look for, and I've had a reminder of just how much fun it is to talk about Malbec in general, wine in even greater generality, but specifically to you guys this evening. So DeWet, Johan, Izele, thank you all very, very much for being part of the show. Patricia DeWet. Oh no, that's I think that's Izele sending messages to people. Guys, thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of it. Johan, make sure you get hold of some of DeWet's Malbec nice and quickly. And Izele, I'll be looking out for the cab and who knows what else. And I'm off to play some Wiggles and enjoy the rest of the evening. Guys, thank you so much. Have a great evening. And thank you for joining me and celebrating South African Malbec.
Awesome. Yes, bye.
So there we go. Johan Calitz from Mischa, DeWet Viljoen from Neethlingshof, and the great Izele van Blerk from the mentors at KWV in a celebration of Malbec, a grape that not quite as aggressively perhaps as Cabernet Franc, but certainly is making more and more of a mark on its own terms, stepping out from just being a little part of a blend. And I think still a little way to go to quite match Argentina, which does it so splendidly. But there are definitely some sizable steps being taken in the right direction. That wraps us up for this evening. Don't forget, we have our competition running this month. It wraps up at the end of this month, so not much time to go. Your chance to win for yourself a really cool dinner. And there will be details coming up in just a moment. Off with Bellingham to enjoy a 5-course meal, 4 of you at Le Coin Francais. I'm going to go and enjoy a little bit more wine, catch up with Duncan Savage and Chapang Molisana and Angela Lloyd and Christian Eads and everybody else who's out here at Brookdale for the launch of the 16. That is a 16 blend, a field blend. It's a remarkable wine and it offers a great deal of interest and excitement in our South African wine industry. I'll be back again on Thursday. Keep watching the show, keep celebrating wine, and do yourself a favor this week. Grab a bottle of Malbec, nip down to Pick and Pay, pour yourself a glass, and try out something that South Africans, as they are with so many other grapes, are doing rather well. Goodbye. This month's competition is brought to you by Bellingham, and it's the chance to head out to Le Coin Francais. That's in the heart of Franschhoek. 4 people, a 5-course tasting menu prepared by Chef Darren Badenhorst, paired with vintage Bellingham wine. Superb food from an absolutely outstanding chef and some really good vintage Bellingham wine. And that is all yours. Simply tell us why on our social media channels. You should be the winner of this particular prize. Let us know. And 4 of you could be spending an evening at Le Coin Francais, dining fabulously and drinking wonderful wine. To join the Pick and Pay Wine Club, simply SMS your smart shopper number to 36775. It's absolutely free and you'll get for yourself 3 times the smart shopper points on every bottle of wine bought. You'll also get a 20% discount on 10 different wines each month, a 25% discount on a case of wine, and a Magnum, some terrific competitions and invitations to awesome events.